Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today to take a closer look at our 2025 Australian Midsize Law Firm Priorities Report. We're looking forward to sharing with you today some of the key insights and valuable takeaways from this report. Before we get started, just some basic house rule and some housekeeping. For anyone that's got any questions during the session, please feel free to put that in the chat today. We'll answer that as we get through the session if there's some time. Otherwise, we'll revert back to them at the end of the session. Now, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Zarnel, and I'm the Regional Vice President for Australia, New Zealand at Actionstep. Look, I've been involved in legal technology for close to 15 years now in one way, shape, or the other. And I actually feel that it's a very exciting time to be part in legal technology. And I say that predominantly for two reasons. Firstly, there's a lot of choice and options for firms to choose from. And secondly, we've seen firms actually really embracing technology and new tech that's on the market. So we're really excited to share some of our takeaways with you. And I'm also really excited to have with me today our Global President, David Hepburn. David, I might just hand over to you to introduce yourself and kick things off for us.
Thanks, San, and really great to be with you all today. Yes, I've spent about 6 odd years now with Actionstep, and we've had such a fun and exciting journey, growing the team now to about 230 team members and 40,000 daily subscribers globally. So, and actually our business strategy has very much focused on mid-sized law firms, and that's why we decided, and over the last few years have really invested in really finding out what makes these mid-sized firms tick. So really pleased to be with you. Let's get into the meat here. As I said, Actionstep has grown significantly in the mid-sized law space, and we have almost 5,000 mid-sized law firms around the world. And I like to think we do understand the unique challenges of this space. We see huge client expectations from your customers, a lot of competition for talent in this space, and clearly for all of us in business, we've got to figure out how to do more with less all the time. So in order to kind of pick and understand more detail about what's kind of going on in this space, we developed our annual Australian Mid-Sized Law Firm Priorities Report in collaboration with Agile Intelligence. And those guys are an Australian-based research company that do extensive research in the legal sector. So the purpose of today is to discuss these valuable insights that we've learned from this 2025 report, and hopefully these will give you some insights into better navigate these complexities and help us better understand the firms that we work with. So why did we release this report? Well, as Zan said, our sense is that mid-sized law firms are really at a turning point today. They're balancing fierce competition for talent while clients' expectations are nothing short of off the charts and usually exceptional service being demanded. So, on top of that, there's also the pressures that we all have every day, and actually we know that there are very large firms that have vast resources and agile boutique firms now coming into various different spaces, and quite a lot of disruption in a number of key areas of law with new technology, particularly coming to bear. So therefore, we've really dug in and we asked a number of key questions, and you can see them here. We wanted to truly understand firms' strategic priorities and their growth strategies that they're using to expand their businesses. And we wanted to understand how they're working to retain top talent and create a place in their organizations where people love to work. And we're also wanted to understand, their plans to really try and enhance their client relationships and boost that satisfaction and really help themselves stand out from the crowd. And clearly, we hear about this a lot today, but it is very confusing. And we wanted to understand what firms are truly doing around particularly artificial intelligence type technologies, but also around automation, machine learning. So there were a number of key themes there that took us into the market. And we did manage to survey a really good selection of firms that I think give us some really good insights. There were 400 firms and law professionals that were surveyed. None of these were Actionstep customers, which is interesting. You can see there were all types of firm types. And full service was about half those surveyed, with boutique and multi-practice forming the rest. There were a mix of respondents from the firms across both administrative staff and obviously fee earning staff and accounting teams. And you can see there the distribution of firm size was really, across the gamut. When we think about this marketplace, it's usually firms from 20 team members up to maybe 250. And you can see a really nice spread there. And what was also fascinating, we wanted to try and get a sense of what the different age groups and those cohorts really were thinking about, and you can see the distribution there. So we think we got a really good cross-section of the market. So I hope now Zan and I are going to give you some of the kind of key insights from the firm. So Zan, I'll hand over to you for those first set of conclusions.
Thanks, David. As we've just actually seen there, this year we were looking at the data and slicing and dicing it in, various ways to gather, different concepts of different positioning, different thoughts from our firms. And the report itself is about a 40-page document, and it's very comprehensive and it's, very detailed. But what we're going to do during this session is we're just going to touch on a few of those priorities, challenges, and look at some opportunities for firms as well. Now, right from the outset, what we wanted to do was actually understand how the business priorities compare to the key challenges faced by firms. So firstly, we looked at what firms are prioritizing this year to drive and protect their revenue. And very interestingly, the top priority for firms was actually improving client satisfaction, with 71% selecting that as their number one priority. Now, that's actually quite a big jump from last year, where we're sitting at about 50%. Now, closely behind were a few other key priorities as well in that mid-50s range, which is also interesting when we actually compare that to last year's results. Talent acquisition and retention sitting at 59%. That kind of jumped up about 5%. But one of the ones that actually jumped up quite a bit was managing the cost of doing business at 57%. That is up from last year, which was sitting at 39%. And then we've got digital transformation and technology at 55%, rounding out the top four, which was also a fairly big jump from last year at 33%. But we normally see digital transformation and technology, ranking up quite high. But interestingly enough, we actually asked firms which of these priorities they feel will be the toughest to achieve. And only 11% actually selected or felt that improving client satisfaction was challenging. So what we can see from that is there's obviously a lot of confidence in their ability to deliver on that priority. However, recruiting and retaining talent came out on top, with 45% of firms saying that's their biggest challenge. Now, personally speaking, I feel like this has been a theme for quite a number of years now. It is overall, however, still a big problem, especially when it's identified as the second top priority for driving and protecting revenue. Now, the rest of those actually fall in line with the priorities, which makes sense. Now, that just feels that, it actually shows that firms have a clear focus on their priorities and understand there are still some challenges to overcome in those areas. What we've actually done is actually delved into the revenue growth question a bit further. And we actually asked firms, what will be their main source of revenue growth for 2025? Now, this actually just highlighted the importance of client experience again, with 37% of them saying that growth and expansion would come from their existing clients. Now, clearly, that top business priority that we looked at the previous slides of improving client experience is therefore extremely important. However, a very interesting stat was that 59% say they recognize weaknesses in their digital tools and their client engagement that actually makes their clients' life easier. Now, in this modern era of law and the need to be a modern digital law firm, that's actually quite a high number when you think about it, like 60%. That's 6 out of 10 people. So, a little takeaway for us there is that if firms are actually serious about improving their client experience, they should also be serious about improving their digital experience and, therefore the efficiency for their clients. So what areas can you look at as a firm, with regards to technology to help you with your client experience? Now, there are some great tools that firms can use, tools that can actually help your customer relationship management process, like having a good CRM process and good workflows in place. So there's a lot of automation to gain in this area. One of the quickest wins we see in the market is actually for firms to look at their client onboarding experience, that information gathering session, such as having a client portal. And as part of that process, also consider, what tools you have that assist with transparency and consistent client engagement. Now, what systems do you have in place that help with automated client communication that keeps them up to date on the stage or the progress of that matter? Now, all of these tools provide a great client experience, but also at the same time, you're actually able to deliver it with automated workflows and therefore providing great efficiency for your firm at the same time.
Thanks, San. So if we know law firms are planning to grow their revenue from current clients, how are they going to do that? Well, we asked a number of questions here. One of the very first ones that they see efficiency is being one of the keys to that growth in their current clients, with almost 30% choosing that, which is interesting. So again, how do you achieve efficiency? Well, as I think Zan was saying on that last segue, that the ability to leverage your technology is key to that, and obviously helping your teams become as efficient as possible. But almost 80% say that efficiency will be challenging and driven primarily through the quality of their people. So this is very much focused on that first mindset that we have been talking about. Yeah, on the other side of the coin, we see 74% of firms say that workload sits against that challenge being the biggest issue to them creating exceptional client experiences. So teams reacting rather than proactively engaging with their clients. And further to that, 52% wish their firm would implement automation tools to lighten their workload. And add to that, 60% firms saying their client digital experience is lacking. So this is a real strong theme that we're seeing through this report today, and it does reveal quite a significant disconnect, really. Firms are confident in the power of personal touch points to strengthen their client relationships, it seems, but they may be missing out on how technology could support and even enhance those relationships. And without embracing automation, we think firms risk overworking their staff, causing burnout, and ultimately impacting that client experience downstream. Which again, that goes against their top business priority. So one of the things that I think you guys can think about doing to overcome these hurdles is to really start automating quite simple tasks in a firm that free up your teams to do the higher value work. And those may be things like document generation or client communication work. And there's a nice quote here from one of the millennials, and there were a few others like this in the report that you can see there. And this person said, our firms need to place more importance on adopting cutting-edge legal technologies and automation tools to streamline workflows and improve collaboration. So again, that's an interesting bit of feedback from somebody, an administrative team member in that younger end in a multi-practice firm. So kind of adding to that and rethinking efficiency within your firm there, some of the things that we see successful firms really do is start mapping out their client journeys throughout their organizations. Where do they start? How do clients begin their journey? And then what are the key touch points through it? And obviously downstream, how do you follow up with them, and generate more referral business downstream? So that's a part of developing best practice within your firm. They may differ by practice area, but actually by starting maybe with one of your practice areas and really mapping out those processes, you can actually identify opportunity areas to take that heat out of the process, automate certain activities, and become more repeatable in terms of your client delivery. And once you've done that, you can consider building your journeys into flexible workflow tools, of which there are many out there. And in those tools, you get step-by-step activities that are flexible. It automates various tasks and activities, and things can be triggered at certain stages, particular response or a template, or actual follow-up at a certain point in time with a key customer. All of those items can be actually embedded and built within the workflow tools that we see many mid-sized law firms using. And I suppose, one final piece that sits along that capturing revenue priority that Zan mentioned up top was really how efficient are you at capturing time and tracking that cost of an engagement. It doesn't matter if your fee earners aren't actually billing time. You actually should have a very clear understanding in your organization of how much it costs to deliver service and business to clients. So there are some very exciting new tools, some of which are AI enabled out there, that can help you do a better job of capturing all of those daily tasks and activities that might well end up on an invoice to a client.
Thanks, David. Do you know what? I love that slide about the efficiency, and it's so interesting when we talk about that disconnect there, just before I jump onto this piece, because if we unpack that slide in a bit more detail, there's 37% of the respondents said that new business is going to come from their existing clients or their, the existing client base. And then we asked them how they're going to do it, and 30% said they're going to do that through efficiency. And then we asked them how they're going to gain that efficiency. They said 74% or almost 80% said it's from their existing staff or the quality of their people. And then on the other side of the coin, 74% of their people saying, hey, I'm overworked. I don't have the tools. And it's going to be fascinating when we have a chat about this a little bit later, when we actually talk about, well, how does that impact staff retention? How's that actually going to affect it? So fascinating slide and the disconnect there. But changing track for a bit and, having a look at technology and new technology and the latest technology and the confidence that people have with that. Now, we know that mid-sized law firms are navigating complex choices, especially when it comes to cybersecurity, regulation, AI, process automation. So there's some interesting statistics or comparison when we actually look at the compliance against the skepticism of new technology and the innovation that is being delivered to the sector currently. Now, many firms actually see this benefit, but what we actually notice is that there's still a noticeable gap between actually knowing the technology and what the technology can do, and we'll actually put that into use. Now, let's take cybersecurity as a really good example. Now, this has been talked about for quite some time or quite a while, and it's always been a concern for firms. But interestingly enough, according to our report, 81% of firms feel confident that they can manage cyber threats. And 75% of firms actually feel good about meeting their AML obligations, which is obviously going to be coming into effect here in Australia quite soon. But when it actually comes to next-gen technology or next-gen tech, 66% are still concerned about data privacy issues when it comes to adopting AI. And only 5% have actually fully implemented AI tools in a holistic and integrated way in their firms. And 36% haven't actually even dabbled in AI or actually tried AI. And then there was another 32% that's actually saying that some teams or some individuals are using AI in a various levels or isolated ways within their organization. Now, what's interesting is actually that 38% are saying that they're using automation tools, which we always recommend is the first step before implementing AI. Now, we all know that AI could be a huge benefit, but there's still some hesitation, which is obviously understandable. And it's quite interesting. We actually presented this last week, and we asked this exact same question, which firms actually implemented AI in their organization, and we had 65 in the room, and one person actually raised their hand and said that we've got that integrated and working in our tools. So, obviously those statistics of 5% is fairly accurate from the report. So if we look at the next slide, some feedback from that, what are some of the ideas then that you can actually use to future-proof your firm? Now, it's important to ensure you understand your new tech and how it can support you securely. There are some great solutions on the market that can provide the efficiency, innovation, and client experience you're looking for, such as AI, automation around AML, conflict check, etc. But my key takeaway for you on how to future-proof your firm is that very last bullet point. Ensure you create a tech ecosystem with best-of-breed technology solutions that integrate effectively with each other, but ensure it's a platform that is scalable, flexible, intuitive, and able to evolve with your business requirements as your business evolves.
Yeah, I think that's a really big deal, Zan. We don't all know exactly what's around the corner, and I think the next few years in the industry is going to be, or at least continue to be, quite disruptive. So having that flexibility and ability to capture and leverage securely some of these nascent technologies will be really powerful.
Yep.
So just rounding out now, one of the other main themes, obviously, that we've been talking about today is around talent retention, and how critical, your people are obviously to your achievement of your business goals. With the recruiting and training talent being top, or second top actually, at 59%, but it was also the top challenge, I think, that firms are facing. So the priority is high, the challenge is high. We wanted to understand a little bit more about what is really keeping professionals committed, and on the other side, driving them away from firms. So the data showed that 45% of professionals say that recruiting and retaining talent is the hardest priority of the firm to tackle, yet only 13% plan to leave their firm in the next 12 months. And that sounds about right. I would say that a 10% sort of turnover rate within a law firm is probably a market, or reasonably how things look. Obviously, who you lose is critical, depending on their role within the organization. If you lose a key leader within your business, that can obviously have a significant impact to that team within the org. But we found that about 62% said that pay and remuneration is the primary factor, which again probably isn't that surprising in deciding to leave and go. And the biggest question is how do you fund those salary requests and remuneration increases that we're all facing in business. And one of the ways, obviously, that you can consider addressing that is obviously working more efficiently in your organization, which obviously might free up greater profit for you to reinvest in the business. And I think that's where you'll see a theme through everything that Zan and I have said today around really thinking about how technology can improve your efficiency and automate some of those tasks that you do a lot within your firm that actually could be allowing team members to do much more high value activities. Other reasons that we saw professionals respond in the survey was engaging work or strong leadership or culture within the firm. And actually we did see quite a few themes around support for work-life balance, which again was quite a big part of the story. I think that we've all seen out of COVID and how different firms are working and around the world. I'm in London at the moment, Zan's in Brisbane, and we've seen here in London, for example, a huge shift to back in the office working, for example, for many team members. So again, how you navigate that with your team and create that culture in your firm, clearly came through, very strongly in these themes here. So improving the experience in your firm, I've mentioned technology and ease of use. Are you allowing your teams to access the best tools in the market for their specialist teams? Are you automating repetitive tasks and using automation tools? Does your team end up entering data multiple times, from different systems to different systems? And I suppose, one of the other things I know that we all really want to do is be far more proactive in terms of our communications than that reactive motion that we have when clients are engaging with us and wanting to know updates. Whereas we could get ahead of that by using certain reminders and other workflow kind of tools to enable us to get a lot more proactive in that space. So a lot to think about in this area, not a simple bullet that'll solve it. Obviously, culture in your firm, the technology that you use, the remuneration is critical. So a lot of real themes there to try and address the retention challenge that I think we all face out there. Zan, I'll hand back to you to round up.
Thanks, David. I might just stick with that theme for a quick minute, just as far as, talent retention and recruitment's concerned, because if we look at the statistics and those figures there, obviously people are saying it's the toughest challenge for them to achieve, or, priority for them to achieve as an organization, 45% saying that. So it was at number one. But then we look at 13% of people actually saying they're looking to leave. So, it's not significantly high numbers. So it does look like firms are actually, it's a promising trend as we've got right there. So firms are actually doing a good job with it. So key takeaway there is that, what you're doing seems to be working, keep doing it. But utilize some tools to help you actually enhance that engagement with your clients, engagement with your staff a bit further. So that would be kind of a quick little side note as a takeaway. But some of the other key takeaways that we do have is, talking about the skepticism about new technology. It's natural to feel skeptical. Many of us do. So we completely understand that. But it's easier to adopt the technology if you have a clear plan on how the new tech supports your business goals, and then how these tools will fit into your workflows. So have a clear business objective and a plan and a goal on what you're hoping to achieve with the technology. I always say to our guys that when we engage with customers, ask them the what. What are you hoping to achieve? And we can show you the how to achieve that. Secondly, there's an opportunity to use smart tech that directly impacts clients. So digital client intake, client workflows, and secure client portals. Now, these tools don't just make interaction easier, they actually personalize the client experience, and they help build lasting trust and loyalty. So as we've heard, offering exceptional client service is key. Then mid-sized law firms can go beyond just using basic tech by adapting automation tools that make work faster and reduce workloads. So as we saw, 38% of firms are using automation for efficiency. And those who actually do, they find more time for big picture, client-focused work. So this approach doesn't just make the workday easier, it actually empowers your teams to provide higher quality service, building stronger client relationship, and as we've just focused on or heard about, actually support your staff retention. And then finally, look, next generation technologies such as AI is here. We need to master it and use it in our own advantage. So we recommend starting smaller. Start with automation and workflow design, then bring AI into the picture in ways that are tested, productive, and bring it in at the right time of your process and your workflow. I think that about wraps it up for us. Once again, thank you for taking the time to join us today. For anyone that hasn't seen the report or would love to download the report, please, you can see the QR code on the screen at the moment. Please scan it and you can download it. If you do have any other questions or would like to discuss any of these topics in a bit more detail, also please feel free to reach out to our teams. We thank you for your time and we look forward to seeing you again next time.